Peace, peace, peace. Get started in a few. You know how we do.
Always keep it true.
All right, we're going to go into Ptah, the origin of Freemasonry tonight. Ptah, the origin of Freemasonry. All right. We're going to get into it strong. Tell your family and friends. All right. Tell your Masons, brothers and sisters, Eastern Stars. Tell everybody, tonight is the night. We were going into Ptah, the origin of Freemasonry. All right, we're gonna let the room fill up a little bit.
IMG said one love for the fact.
One love, one love. Peace, peace. Come on, tell your family and friends, associates. Tell them, come on. Greetings, greetings. Peace, peace. All right, can't wait for the book. Well, we got another one coming out. It's going to be The Kingdom of God. And we got several other ones coming out. I got about 10 books ready. We're just trying to figure out which one we putting out first. Oh, I should say next. All right, we almost got the quota. We're going to begin when we hit the 20 views or viewers. So come on, tell another family and friend. There it is. All right, we're going to get into tonight's discussion, Ptah, the origin of Freemasonry. And we're going to go to our slide presentation like we normally do so that you can have it in color. You can have it in so-called black. In other words, from our geniuses and scholars and researchers, as well as in so-called white, from the Albion, European, and their historians. So we're going to be able to put it all together because this is all there is a puzzle. All right, life is a puzzle, and you got to figure this shit out. All right, so let's get into it. All right. This is the god Ptah, the NETCHER, the head deity, the gods of the gods, the NETCHER of the NETCHERUs. All right. Now note he has a small afro right here to the left, all right, or afro. All right. Now think about it. This is back 1290 BC. Right, almost 1,300 years before Christ, right? We was rocking afros in Kemet, right? Notice around his neck is the red, black, and green, the colors, as well as also you see some yellow, which is our national flag colors. It's also Marcus Garvey's colors. It is also more than 20 some odd states in Africa flag colors. All right. This here is Ptah from the 19th dynastic period. And this is the origin here to the right. I was talking about to the left here, but now to the right. To the right, you will see him wearing a skull cap, which is basically where we get the origin of the kufi from, which gets into the yarmulke, in which that the Jewish people wear, and the Pope from the Vatican. All right, that comes from Ptah. All right, this is why the Pope refers to himself, or others refer to the Pope as Abba, or Father, even though the scriptures say, the Bible, New Testament says, don't call no man father but God. All right. However, he is called Abba because in Aramaic, he is patting himself after Ptah. That's what the Pope is doing. Matter of fact, the word Pope itself is from Baba and Abba, which means father. Pope is pop, P-O-P. When you call your father pop. Yo, pops, how you doing, pop? That's Pope. So you calling him father. But it says in the scriptures, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thou will be done on earth as it is in heaven. All right, so understand, he is the God and the Father of fathers, the Father of all the gods. So they claim that the origin of Ptah's name is unclear. Well, it's very clear. His name means opener. In Islam, the first book in the first surah in the Holy Quran is Al-Fatiha. That's the first surah. Al-Fatiha. Fatiha means the opening. Ptah, the word Fatiha, which is in Arabic, comes from the ancient Egyptian Kemetic word Ptah, which means opener. He's the opener. All right? Black Moon. Old school. You know, I got you open. As a god of the craftsman, the later is probably correct, right? Because he's also the sculpture, the craftsman. He was the patriot of the arts, protector of stone cutters, sculptures, blacksmiths, architects, boat builders, artists, and craftsmen. His high priest was given the title we're going to put it like this. Where Kepera Himwe, leader of craftsmen, and his priest was probably linked to the different crafts. Of course they were. What was the crafts? The same crafts in which that you hear of now within Masonry, which is called craft work. I got the, you're doing the crafts. It was believed that Ptah invented Masonry, and it was he who crafted the boat that the dead used to travel to the Duat or Twat. Hence, back to the womb, because the woman vagina is called Twat. But Duat, that's where that originates from. The Book of the Dead describes him as a great worker in metal, a master architect, and framer of everything in the universe. This is Spencer, Louis Spence, 1990, Egyptian or Egypt Myths and Legends, page 144. 144. All right? So Ptah is the creator, NETCHER of the physical world. He is the demiurge that you refer to as that dollar broth. He is Jehovah. He is spirit that has descended into and trapped in matter. The new soul being born into matter would be the principle of Heru. Heru, which is Lucifer, is the original fallen angel from heaven. Heru is the light in matter. A nickname for Heru as bringer of light in matter was Lucifer, or bearer of light, light bearer. Oh, shoot. You finally getting this shit explained to you. Ancient Africans would use play on words to express the reverse of an idea. So Ptah meant spirit falling into mass or matter, and Hotep was spirit leaving matter, the body. So you shouldn't hate the word Hotep. And go into a peaceful resting place. Today we use the term Hotep to mean peace, but it means spirit leaving the matter, the body, because PTH spelled backwards is HTP. So Ptah is Imhotep. Imhotep or Hotep is Ptah. Ptah or Peter, which Jesus' head disciple was Peter. Ptah. You get it? As in Jew, Peter. Peter. Jew, Peter. Jew. Peter. Jew becomes Zeus. All right? Zeus and Jupiter are the head deities of the Greco-Roman pantheon. Jesus, Jew, Peter, you move Peter, and Jew, Zeus, Jesus becomes Jesus, the head of the Greco-Roman pantheon. You get it? And Peter, Ptah, was one of the triads in Memphis, along with Segmot or Baset, which becomes who? In her balanced form, she's Mayat. Baset is the calm form of Segmot. Segmot is the raging lioness. Nefertim, right? When Memphis became the capital of Egypt, Ptah became the ultimate creator who made everything, including the gods of the Agadads of Hermolopolis and the Aeneas of Heliopolis, and was given the epithet, he who set all the gods in their place and gave all them or all things the breath of life. Ptah was worshipped throughout all of Egypt, but his primary cult center was in Memphis or Menka Ptah and Heliopolis, which is On or Ra. So it's Ptah Ra. Ptah Ra become Peter. He was so popular in Egypt that it is said that the name Egypt itself is derived from the Greek spelling of the name in the temple of Memphis, Ha-Ka-Ptah, which meant the temple of Ka-Ptah. So we find that Ptah, which is the demiurge, Abdallah within the Gnostic text, is Enki in the Sumerian Mesopotamian text of the Enuma Elish. And he is also Yahweh, Jehovah, which is nothing more than your DNA. Remember, Ptah is spirit that has descended into and trapped in matter. The matter in which that this spirit is trapped in, which is Ptah, the creator, NETCHER of the physical world of Ashia, which means the realm of the making, is the same as Yahweh within your Bible. Your DNA, CATG, or Cytosine, Adenine, Thymine, and Guanine, or Ptah. His other form is Tahuti, or Hu-He. Hu-He spelled backwards is Yahweh, or Yahivahi, or Yahevahi, which are the nucleic acids that determines the complex process of hereditary. CATG gives the genetic codes for all forms of life evolved. This is why Ptah is the creator NETCHER of the physical world. Because CATG, which is Yahivahe, gives the genetic message codes for all forms of life evolved. I could end right here, but I just explained everything to you. The Kemetic origin of Freemasonry. The signs and the symbols do not lie. This is from Brother Fahim, Noble Fahim, A. Knight L. He says the signs and symbols of ancient and modern Freemasonry are rooted in Kemet, Egypt, and the evidence is overwhelmingly obvious that Freemasonry borrowed its allegorical myths and ideology metaphors from more ancient societies that were well advanced in their philosophical mysteries. You get Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. It all began in Kush, Abyssinia, or Ethiopia, which perhaps some of the wisest Nubians toiled and were civilized, or where civilization originated, thus transmitting their enlightenment in complement with how the Nile River flows from south to north. Reference Sterling Means in his book titled Ethiopians and the Missing Link in African History, and George G. James' work titled Ethiopia and the Origin of Civilization. Now, Drusilla Houston, in her book, The Wonderful Ethiopians of Ancient Kushite Empire, she states that to the Kushite race belongs the oldest and purest Arabian blood. They were the original Arabians, not these pale Arabs that you see nowadays, and the creator of the ancient civilization, evidence of which may be seen in the stupendous ruins in every part of the country. At the time, the Ethiopians began to show power. A monarch of Egypt around 3000 to 3500 BC. The western part of Arabia was divided into two powerful kingdoms. In those days, the prince of Arabia belonged wholly to the descendants of Kushites, who ruled Yemen for thousands of years. This is what Drusilla Houston states in her Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire. Now, as I showed you last night, in the ancient mystic Oriental Freemasonry, of ancient Oriental mystic Freemasonry by Swinmer, he states in there that Egypt is information that we now love to use to explain the ancient books in which that we have is good and dandy. However, he said that it goes even further back than Egypt, because the ancient Egyptians were originally the Atlanteans. And the Atlanteans before that was actually the Lemurians. So we're talking about more than 90,000 years back. And Lemuria, we're talking about the Lemurians, or the Elmorians, as I refer to them as, were in Hawaii before the great earthquake took place, in which that caused the separation of now what we know as the Samoan Islands, Easter Island, Tonga Island, as well as also Hawaii. All of that at one time was one land mass. Now, only thing we look at now are the peaks of the land. This has been verified by the United Nations that there was a land called Mu or Lemuria, and it was the Hawaiian Islands. That's the reason why the capital of Hawaii is called Maui, M-A-U-I, or Mu. You have to pay attention. Then they came into the mainland of Atlantis, which would be the United States of America. In other words, North America, not the corporation, but America, North America. And then they went into the adjoining islands, which are the Caribbean or Caribbeans or what is called the West Indies, or Cari, as Tobago and Trinidad is called, Maroon or Jamaica or Haiti, which is Haiti. Okay, all of that at one time, Cuba, all of that, Puerto Rico, all that, Bermuda, all that at one time was all together. And it was Atlantis. And destruction took place there. That was around 50,000 years ago to 5,000 years ago. Depends on what books you read. They add a zero or take a zero off. It doesn't matter. We know that it existed because even today, if you go to the Bahamas, in particular Freeport, or to other parts of the Bahamas, they would tell you that it was part of Atlantis culturally. So we had the islands of Atlantis and you had the mainland Atlantis, which was here, North America. So we know that we have 18 temples in the Grand Canyon in which that the ancient Egyptians formed, known as the Temerians or Kemites, as they became known as they went into Egypt, into what is now called Egypt or Africa. But when they was here in the Americas, these Temerians, all right, we know that there was many that came. We had Hatshepsut that was here. We had Akhenaten or Unc-Unten who was here, in which that masonry to this day give credit to Akhenaten, and as well as also the Rosicrucians give credit to Thutmose III as being the founders of their secret society. But in the book by Claimer, all right, Swine Claimer, or Swinebird Claimer, I should say. In his book, he states specifically that we owe America, which is Atlantis, where the ancient Egyptians were originally, or been here for quite some time. See, I postulate this, is that life began in Africa over, all right, or I should say that we went into Africa over 2.8 billion years ago. This is when all the land masses was together. So Africa would not be called Africa as we refer to it now, because it would be called, within Greek terminology later on, Pangea. Right? Then we had Gondwana, then we have Hyperborea. You have all of these particular places in which that at one time, based on the geographical location, the names changed over the last 250 million years. But we know that there was people already here based on forbidden archaeology by Michael Creedmoor and Richard L. Thompson, Dr. Richard L. Thompson, who was a professor, all right, an archaeologist, in which that states specifically that in Dorchester, Massachusetts, there was a blast that was carried out and a metallic vase looked like a bell with exquisite carving was found dating back to over 600 million years old. What this means is that we was in Africa, we left Africa, it broke apart, we came back across. All of this was done before the Albion was even on the planet. Before the Albion was even on the planet, because he only been on the planet after the last ice age, 10,000 years ago, in which that they have marked down that at least 8,000 years ago, it was still so-called blacks, but they had blue eyes. And then from these, this is where they said that they got the blue eyes from. was from these blacks, these so-called blacks in Europe. All right? And by 6,000 years, they were in the form in which that we now know them in. But this was a drafting process that took place. We won't get into that right now because we got a whole lot more to go with that. That's another lecture. All right? But here we have the origin and evolution of Freemasonry. Bes Heru is the earliest form of Ptah, of the Pygmy Ptah. So Ptah was a Pygmy. Because the Pygmies was the earliest ones to go into Egypt. This is why some of the temples, when you go there, you have to bend down less than 2 to 4 feet to even get into the shafts. And some of the steps are so small that you will have to put a third of your foot on the steps to even get up them. This is the same thing that you find in Chichen Itza, Tulum, Cobol, in Mexico, and elsewhere. The Pygmies were the ones who built these pyramids. They was the architecture. They was the Ptah, the Bes, the Heru, the An or Anu people. Also the 7 powers which cooperate with Ptah are represented as the 7 Pygmies, known as the 7 chakras or the 7 souls of Ra. This is what is told to us by Jeremiah lectures, by Jeremiah. Moreover, Ptah, the divine primitive man, is the imperfect progenitor of the perfect man in his son, Atum or Adam. You get it? This is who brought Adam or Atum from out of the state of Nun. And the first begotten son of Adam was Shu, which is Yeshua, Jesus. This is all told in ancient scriptures dating back more than 50,000 years ago, according to Jeremiah from his book, The Ancient Light of the World. From Africa, the Pygmy spread it all over the world. We know this because we find his implements there and some descendants in a few places. He had a belief in the supreme being and after or spiritual life. Representates the spirit, the supreme being, the spirit of his ancestors, and the elemental powers. One of the implements was in the lodge, originated with the Pygmies. The first that comes into operation, when we open the lodge, the gavel. This was an original sacred sign and symbol, and still is, of the Pygmies, and represents to them the same as with us, the great one, the chief, the master. This is why the judge is given the gavel, and he bangs it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, symbolic to the triad of Ptah, Nefertim, and Sekhmet, which becomes Heru, or his father, or Sar, or Set, and Heru. The Holy Trinity. Jesus, his father, and mother, which is Mother Mary, which they made a Holy Ghost. But Mary is Auset. In fact, Auset's name is Auset Mary, M-E-R-I. Where we get the term Meru from, which means beloved, which also gives the word more, M-R. Hence the reason why more say love, true peace, freedom, and justice, which happen to be the attributes of Mayat. The Pygmy symbol in this original form is this, as you see here, with just 3 sticks crossed. That's the gavel. Any of the Pygmy races, whenever you may find them, they're proving my contention that the old Egyptians first depicted the human form as type taken from the Pygmies, because they knew that the Pygmies was the first humans evolved, and that the first depiction was the female type and the mother. Now, this is, understand who is saying this. Do you know who's saying this? This is Albert Churchward. in his book, The Origin and the Evolution of Freemasonry. Albert Churchward is saying this, a European Albion. The figures found were intended to represent Hathor, the moon goddess, and her son Horus, right? Or her child Horus, which is Heru. She represents the great mother. So Hathor is another form of Set Mary, earlier symbolized as a cow. Hence, you have the golden calf mentioned in the Old Testament with her children. Horus as a calf or bull, hence Apis. The bull becomes Taurus astrologically. In my book, The First World Order, The Global Path of the Ancient Ones, I state this: in Gods and Spacemen of the Ancient West, Raymond Drake says this, that the Pygmies inhabited Earth for 30 million years. We say more than that. The Pygmies were the first to enter the area called Tamari. This is from the ancient origin of Freemasonry. And he says, and check this out now, they was the first to enter Tamari or Egypt, and with them came the ancient mystery spiritual system, religion. You can find this in the ancient origin of Freemasonry, spiritual signs and symbols of primordial man, or signs and primordial signs, signs and symbols of primordial man, and Freemasonry and its Egyptian influence. According to Kabbalion, by the three initiates, it states that the old Egypt had come to the fundamental esoteric and occult teachings when it so strongly influenced the philosophies of all races, nations, and other people for several thousands of years. So every world religion that you have comes from ancient Egypt. Kemet, at least the people, not per se just the location, because we know that the original location or the older location of the ancient Egyptians were here in the Americas. They was the Atlanteans. First, the Lemurians, who was the Ptah people. How we know that? Because in the book Children of Mu, written by James Churchward, who was Albert Churchward's brother, he states specifically that the Ptah people was in Hawaii, or what is called Lemuria, over 2 million years ago. So there was the nomadic people. They just didn't stay in Africa. They just didn't stay in Rwanda. Egypt, home of the pyramids and the Sphinx, was the birthplace of the hidden wisdom and mystery teachings. Well, it was the consolidation of the hidden wisdom and the mystic teachings. From her secret doctrine, all nations has borrowed. India, Persia, Chaldea, Midian, China, Japan, Assyria, ancient Greece, Rome, and many other countries partook liberally at the feast of knowledge. This is in the Kabbalion. Albert Churchward, 33 Degrees Mason, in his book, Morals and Dogma, page 624, refers to the ancient mysteries and Freemasonry as being identical, with exception found only in that of progressive alterations. As all ancient mysteries independently examine world by a timely and spacious task, it is only necessary to expound on the mystery religion which Masonry itself deems true. Thus, check this out. Egypt has always been considered as the birthplace of the mysteries. It was there that the ceremonies of initiation was first established. It was there that the truth was first veiled in allegory, and the dogma of religion was first imparted under symbolic form. This is the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, heading Egyptian Mysteries. According to the Stellar Theology and Masonic Astronomy by Robert Brown Jr., he states that the mysteries of all the other nations was quite similar to those of Egypt and were no doubt derived from them. Manly P. Hall, 33 Degrees Mason, Master Illuminati, right? Rosicrucian, say that the following was ancient mystery religions and their ties to Freemasonry. Every pagan people, nation has not only its state religion, but another in which that the philosophic elect alone have gained entrance. Many of these ancient cults vanished from the earth without revealing their secrets, but a few have survived the test of ages, and their mystery symbols are still preserved. Much of the ritualism of Freemasonry is based on the trials to which candidates were subject by the ancient Egyptians' hierophants before the keys of wisdom was entrusted to them. This is Master Mason Salami Isandak explain the origin of this philosophy in the place of modern Masonry. He says this: in ancient Egypt, there was a religious society that bequeaths a system of thought and belief in Hermeticism. Masonry held something similar to this. For example, those who have come to a certain level obtained ceremony of the society, revealed their spiritual thoughts and feelings, and trained those who were at a lower level. Pythagoras was a Hermeticist, trained among them, but he never finished the school, though. He went there for 24 years out of the 40-year system. All right, so he went the longest out of any of the Europeans. I'll be honest. This is at least what it said. I don't believe that Pythagoras, Socrates, Euripides, Aristotle, I don't believe that they were Europeans. Because the first Europeans don't come into Egypt, according to historical origin of Christianity by Professor Williams, until after 332 AD, with Ptolemy, Lagar, the rabbit, and his brother, Alexander the so-called Great, who was Persian, I might add. So they themselves might not even have been, but because they were so barbaric, you know, they was not allowed into the ancient mystery school. All right. Even though we find later that Ptolemy bribed his way in through the Coptics by way of an individual by the name of Sylvester, who gave them at least 3 degrees of a 9-degree system. All right. Again, the organization and the philosophical system of the Alexandrian school of the Neoplatonism, or Plato, you know, Plato didn't finish either. None of them did. None of the so-called Greek philosophers ever finished. This is found within Stolen Legacy by George G. James. He tells you how long each of them went. And none of them went over 24 years out of the 40-year mysteries. Pythagoras went the longest. And there are some significant similarities between them and the Masonic rites. So what Neoplatonism has their origin in ancient Egypt. And there are some significant similarities between them and Masonic rites. Freemasonry is a social and ritual organization which began to go back to ancient Egypt, whose beginnings go back to ancient Egypt. Now get the book, Egypt, Cradle of Ancient Masonry by Norman Frederick D. Clifford. He goes to great length to show that Freemasonry extended all the way back to ancient Egyptian mysteries. All right. All right, here it is. Albert Churchward, in his Origin and Evolution of Freemasonry, he says this. You'll come down. It is that these old stellar cults, priests, that we owe the origin of our brotherhood in the lesser mysteries. The old Heru Sechet, or wise men of Egypt, self-designated the Urshi, right? Urshi or Washi becomes Washita. The wise men of Egypt, Washita. They are the first to cause the primary temple to be built in Egypt at Edfu. For their sacred buildings, they initiated a certain clan or tribe of men called the Ari, of the 17th nome of Upper Egypt, who were the original operative Masons. So the Ari was the original operative Masons. We come down. These builders were initiated into the first and second mysteries only, so that it should keep secret of the temples. No other were allowed to build or repair their temples. The lesser mysteries were at first 7, but only 2 of these were ever known by the operative Masons, past and present. There was 2 classes of these operative, called by the priests the artisans, and the companions. The Operative Masons had divided the first and second mysteries into 4, even in recent years. The blue and, check this out now, the so-called speculative Masons of the present, right? Never originated from these, as some brothers suppose. In fact, about 600,000 years ago, these operatives were initiated into the first and second mysteries of Hersheta, all right, or Sachet, which were the originals of the so-called speculatives. So this is where we get the origin of the Operative Masons and the speculative Masons. Our brotherhood, i.e. the so-called speculative Masons, originated with the old stellar cult Hersheta priests. So these stellar cult Hersheta or Washeta, right? This is where Washeta comes from. These was the priests who initiated or instituted the 7 primary Egyptian mysteries called the Lesser Mysteries. And these was found on their astro-mythological, the origin mode being supplied by the totemic mysteries of the more primitive man, the hero cult Ptolemaic people and their drawing mythology, right? We come on down. Later during the solar cults, 10 more mysteries were added, which were, it said Totolical, all right, esoterical, and were called the greater mysteries or the mysteries of Amenta. The difference between these is that the primary are the mysteries of time and the others, the mysteries of eternity. Greater mysteries were 10 in number at first. Later, 2 more were added. So they told you how many stages you had to go through. Okay. The Operative Masons, it was 2 classes, the artisans and the companions. And the Operative Masons had divided the first and second mysteries into 4, even in the recent years. Then you had which are the lesser mysteries. Then you had the greater mysteries when there was 10. And later there was 2 that was added. Get the book, The Arcana of Freemasonry by Albert Churchward. He says this. Emperor Julian, the bishop of Cynicians, Clement of Alexandria, and many other philosophers had been initiated into some of the mysteries by the priests of Egypt before being converted to Christianity. In this way may be traced how part of the religious system of Egypt, signs and symbols, came to Scotland. My wife and I went to the British Museum in England in 2008, the week of Barack Obama becoming president. And the curator of the museum came up to us and told us that if you want to see more of your ancestral items, you need to go to Scotland. So now if anyone have gone to the British Museum, then you know that most of it is Egyptian artifacts. And he said, if you want to see more of your Egyptian artifacts, he told us to go to Scotland. That's what he told us. So we must remember that the mysteries practiced by some Authoritaire, Greek, Romans, Pythagoreans, the mysteries of Eliseus, the mysteries established by Zoroaster and the Mahatmas and the brothers of India all took their origin from the Egyptian eschatology. We see also from the above how, in one way, the so-called higher degrees, the 10 greater mysteries, were introduced in Britain. But we can see that, however, we know that Britain does not, the United Grand Lodge of England does not have a charter from the ancient mystery schools of Egypt, which is spoken of within Stolen Legacy by George G. James. And this is why George G. James, who was a Mason, died from a Masonic death. His ears was cut, his throat was cut from ear to ear, and his tongue was pulled out. Beyond, we go continue. Beyond my works, there is no history of Freemasonry, save in this moderate aspect, except that which is disclosed in ancient writings. Few brothers have studied the history of the human race and evolution of man, which alone contains the secrets of the development of Freemasonry. I'm gonna say that again. Few brothers have studied the history of the human race and evolution of man, which alone contains the secrets of the development of Freemasonry. So when you have fools talking about, oh, the Freemasonry, oh, that's Illuminati. Nigga, I just took you back over 60,000 years with the Ptah people, with the Twa people, the Anu people, already doing this, already practicing Freemasonry, or what is called Freemasonry. Do you know that the word Freemasonry comes from out of ancient Egypt? No, you don't. This is why you talk that stupid shit. You don't have a clue. You're just repeating some European Albion that you heard on YouTube. Who hasn't read, hasn't studied? He hasn't read Gerald Massey. He hasn't read Albert Church Ward. He haven't read James Church Ward. You haven't heard Valencia Stratton, The Celestial Ship of the North? He hasn't read none of these books. He haven't read African Origin of Freemasonry. He hasn't read any of these books. But yet, giving opinions, and this is why I have to do the presentations in order to show you the books in which that I get the information from, because I always had jackasses trying to test me. But see, you can't test me when it comes to this shit here. I'm a goddamn metaphysical master. The arcane of Freemasonry. The Hiram finished the works that he was to make for King Solomon for the house of God. And Josephus mentioned that he lived entirely long afterwards. An innovation made by those who could not understand Egyptian prototypes when it originated. The old brothers of Egypt wore, check this out, leather aprons, as do Masons today, only a different shape, as you see here. This is the shape. It's a pyramid shape. And the capstone is the navel. Oh, snap. Because it's in the capstone or the navel, which once was the connection between you and your mother through the umbilical cord. The umbilical cord was cut, and now you have a navel. That was the mark of you coming from a woman, womb man. The mind personified, the universal mind personified. That's womb man. So the Egyptians wore what apron was. The Egyptian apron was triangular. The strings of sash being fit at the apex. They also wore collars. One apron, which I've seen, was that of the high priest. It was a yellowish white in color, made of leather with tassels and gold, bearing the name of Apsu, who was the emerald stone in the center. With an emerald stone in the center. The collar worn by the high priest were of gold, while others suspended collars bore 12 different stones. Uh-oh, there go the Jewish people wearing the 12 different stones. The 12 stones, of course, represents the 12 divisions of heaven, or the signs of the zodiac. Hence, even today, you have the 12 gems or precious stones of the zodiac. Each sign has a precious gem. For Aries is diamond. For Leo is emerald. Oh no, is what, ruby? I think it's ruby. But we get to all of that. But yeah. Oh, it's also, say it again. Paradox. Yeah, Doc's green, right? All right, so we have all these different stones. Matter of fact, the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, speaks about the 12 different stones. So there's nothing new. The Hebrews, Israelites, Jewish people, get that information from ancient Egypt. It's right here from off the walls who wore this. And there were various degrees, 7 in the lesser mysteries. So see, remember, they went from 2 and they added 5 to become 7 in the lesser mysteries. And here we have 10, which they added 2 to the great or greater mysteries. All right? But here it says 10 in the greater mysteries. So the aprons and the collars varied in color and ornamentation as they do with modern masonry. GW in our 13th degree and now given when it was informed is to be found in Maccabees, the Maccabees. That it is not so. It is in Egypt, Mantu, and Hori. The meaning of both the ancient and modern word being identical. Okay. The Hidden Life of Freemasonry by C.W. Ledbetter, 33 Degrees, the Theosophical Publishing House, 1926. The necessity that Masons should be properly clothed brings with it an interesting suggestion of the ancient mysteries, and also explains why the essential part of Masonic clothing to be worn by all, with the exception above mentioned, is the apron. Our modern aprons have departed somewhere from the form used in ancient Egypt. No doubt it was modified at the time when it was found necessary to merge the speculative and operative Freemasons in the days of prosecution by the church. The ancient Egyptian apron was triangular with the apex upward, all right, and the ornamentation differed in several aspects from that which used in the present time. But the most important change is that it is now prevailing that the apron itself is everything. So remember, the apron comes from the fact of the biblical story of Adam and Eve when they was in the garden and they ate of the tree of life, they ate of truth, tree of knowledge and good and evil. And after they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, God came down in the midst of the garden and stirred up the wind and was calling Adam and Eve, "Where art thou, Adam? Where art thou, Eve?" And he finds them, and they have a fig leaf. They have fig leaves over their genitalias. The apron comes from that. That's the biblical story of it. But we know, as you see, the ancient Egyptian story, Grand Master apron and collar right here, right? Saleh presents the pharaoh, Amenhotep, all right? Amenhotep, Amenhotep, all right? Thutmose the third, all right? The Knumu, right? This is one of the base relief of the temple of Knumu of Elephantine. This is now destroyed, but here it is showing the apron. Here's the master apron and collar. The pharaoh, Menkanhu, right? A Menkanhu, right? Showing you the apron right here. This is the Egyptian apron for those that get a better look at it. In Egypt, the triangle represents the triad of spiritual will, intuitional love, higher intelligence in man, while the square typifies the lower quaternary, that is his body, that is visible, etheric divisions, his emotional nature, and his lower mind. Thus, the triangle stood for the individuality or soul, and the square for the personality. The two together constituted the centenary man. In other words, the higher self and the lower self. All right, we go back to Hidden Life in Freemasonry. C.W. Ledbetter, 33 Degrees. He says, in ancient Egypt, they recognized the 7 souls of life forces coming forth from the Most High. Students of Eastern philosophy call them the primordial 7. They are mentioned in the book of Dezen. 6 of these were pre-human. The 7 were of our humanity, who brought forth from the virgin Neith, which is actually Nebhet. The symbol attached to bringing forth was that of the pelican. This is the fable to draw forth blood from her breast in order to feed her child or young. Right? This is the pelican or the stork. This is where you get the stork bringing the child through the story. The stork brought the child. Right? Is what parents used to tell the children. Or the stork brought you to me. This is the old ancient Egyptian belief, Sumerian belief system here. The latter became a predominant symbol in the Rosicrucian philosophy, which seems to have been derived largely from Egyptian teachings. We read in Egyptian hieroglyphics, the 1 and the 4 refer to Horus or Heru and his 4 brothers or 4 sons. Right? Out of that, we also find the stanza of Dayans, and again, expression common to both is the one from the egg. In Egypt, the egg was Nagu, Geb, Seb. Seb becomes Jesus' father in the Bible called Joseph. Geb, which is another aspect of Seb, becomes the angel Gabriel. You get it? Jesus was a carpenter. Within Hebrew, carpenter means Nagar. N-A-G-G-A-R, Naga. But guess what? The goose that laid the golden egg was called Nega, N-E-G-G-U-R. You see how all this shit fits? That's what I'm talking about. This is some master shit here. No more playing with these Negroes and these fake ass Negroes out here on damn YouTube land. This shit is over. The truth is here. In Egypt, the egg was the symbol for the setting sun, which is often seen in the shape when about to touch the horizon. This egg passed into the underworld and was hatched there. And out of this came the young sun the next morning, rising in his strength. This also becomes what is called the what? The flame born of flame. In other words, the Bennu bird, the phoenix rising from the ashes. All of this bore deeply mystical significance, which was explained in the mysteries. We know that the phoenix or Bennu bird rise from the ashes every 500 years. 5 symbolizes Heru and the 4 sons or the 4 brothers as they refer to them. These are the 4 brothers or the 4 sons or the 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire. When combined forms Heru, which is ether. Get it? The Masonic square, where everybody always tell you to stand on your square. Well, it was well known that it was called the Nika. Nika. It is to be found in many temples and also appear in the Great Pyramid. It is said that it was used for squaring stones, and it was symbolically the squaring conduct, which once more resembles the moderate interpretation. To build on the square was to build forever, according to the teachings of the ancient Egyptians. Or Egypt, and in the Egyptian hall of justice or judgment of Mayat or Osiris or Heru, or as we call Osar, is seen sitting on the square while judging the dead. Thus, the square comes to symbolize the foundation of eternal law. This is church word in the arcanes of the Freemasonry or arcana of the Freemasonry. Here's the Osiris on the square. You need to stand on your square. This is page 59. And in the square, you will find the colors of red, black, and green. The colors of Marcus Garvey. These colors are the symbols of resurrection. As I broke down in my red, black, and green, the true origin of the colors of red, black, and green. The true meaning of the colors of red, black, and green. You need to get that DVD. The ritual work by the Grand Lodges was known as the building of the Temple of Amen. A translation of his actual wording will be given in another part of this book. It was indeed one of the most splendid and powerful sacraments known to man. It was celebrated for thousands of years, during which Egypt was a mighty land. But a time came when the egos, more advanced in evolution, began to seek incarnation in new nations, in which, as in different classes of the world school, they might learn new lessons. Then this portion of the Egyptian mysteries fell into abeyance, while the Egyptian civilization grew degenerate and formalized as it became a theater for activities of lesser evolved men. In other words, by the time the Persians came in, the Greeks came in, so forth and so on, and they changed from looking melanated, as you see here, to being European looking, as you see later on by the 28th dynastic period of Egypt. And they started practicing the homosexuality, in which that every society that started practicing the homosexuality to that extent fell. Whether it was Egypt, Greece, Rome, Europe, in other words, England, or Britain as it was called, now even here in America. That's one of the last stages before the fall, is decadence, confusion. Kemites, i.e. ancient Egyptians, and Arab or Arabian Semites, or Keith and Kin, get that right. That the Egyptians, Kemite, Arabian people are a distinct variety of a common cultural substratum in the case, as well as by archaeological evidence by Dana Reynaud, right? Because in important articles, she says that ancient Arabia was occupied by people far different in appearance than most modern day occupants. There were people that once occupied Egypt who was affiliated with the East African stock, in other words, Kushites, and would now speak the Hamitic or Semitic languages. In the days of Muhammad and the Roman colonization of Palestine, North Arabia, and Africa, the term Arab was much more than a nationality, especially refers to people whose appearance, customs, language was the same as the nomadic people of the African side of the Red Sea. The evidence, you can go to Yemen right now and see these Africans. The evidence of linguistics, archaeology, physical remains, and ethnohistory supports the observations and depictions we find in the histories of the Greeks and the Romans, and later in the Iranian. The Iranian, do you know that the word Iranian is Aryan? That's where the word Aryan comes from. It's from Iranian. And I just showed, and this is telling you that the original Iranians were melanated. Here it is. The Iranian document is about nomadic Arabians of the early era. The Arabs were the direct progeny and kinsmen of the dark brown, graceful, and kinky-haired Ethiopic people that first spread it over the desert areas of Nubia and Egypt. So the first people in Iran were the Ethiopians. Hence the term Aryan, because the word Iranian comes from the word word Aryan comes from the word Iranian. Europeans are lying. They're not Aryan, the original Aryans. The original Iranians or Aryans were the Ethiopians. This is why you find the swastika in Ethiopia today. Oh, swastika. Ha ha ha, sticker. That's old school. You don't know nothing about that. The origin of the ancient Egyptians, Hebrews, Babylonian, Assyrians, and Arabic languages trace back to a Central African homeland. What? Even Arabic language traces back to an African homeland? Yes. Stop with that nonsense that Arabic is them Pale Arabs language. They can't even speak classical Arabic. They don't know Kufic. That's African homeland language. Many of the speakers of the languages from which all these languages developed may be participate in a black civilization that was driven out of Central Africa by the expansion of the Sahara Desert some 7,000 years ago. When the evidence is synthesized, the following scenario emerges. At the onset of the last major wet spot, the ancient Egyptian speakers would have made their way north down the Nile, while the Bidjah speakers would have gone eastward up to Atbara. The Amatic people would have headed south on the White Nile, followed later almost completely displaced by the Cushitic speakers. The Chadic and the Berber groups would have gone west into the marshes and swamps of the Chad Basin. When they finally divided and went their separate ways, the Berber speakers from the northwest and the Chadic speakers to the southwest, finally the Semitic groups would have followed the Blue Nile to the Ethiopian highlands. This is where you get the Highlanders from the Ethiopians, not from Scotland or Ireland. The Ethiopian highlands, with the majority of Semitic languages, are found to this day, and would eventually be reached the narrow strait that separated the horns of Africa from the Arabian Peninsula. This is coincidence, toponymic evidence that the Semitic speakers first crossed over the Middle East via this route. Trace of different subgroups of Semitic are found all along the eastern and western shores of Arabia. Available evidence points towards a Middle African origin, not only for Afro-Asiatics as a whole, but also for the Semitic groups. This is why we are Afro-Asiatics. We're Asiatics. Semitic groups. We're also Hermetic. Semitic and Hermetic. Semitic and Hermetic. Here's an example of the Moorish and the Nepan script, 800 BC, 600 AD. Look at it and you can see that this is where Arabic is derived. Although many scholars contend that the heretic development of the entire distinct script from the NETCHER, the obvious visual similarities prove that it is also somewhat simplified form of the NETCHER that was mainly used for more administrative and scientific documents throughout the dynastic history of both Kemet and Kush, 3200 BC, 600 AD. The Cushitic and Kemetic Hermetic NETCHER script was developed by the ancient Egyptians, Temerians, all right, a Kamal priesthood who were Tessetians or Tenessian Cushites, and is derived from the ancient Moorish script, 800 BC, 600 AD. In other words, the ancient Egyptians borrowed the script, and it was and is the origin of the Semitic languages such as Phoenician, Canaanite, Hebrew, which is ancient Phoenician and Hebrew were the same, Aramaic, and specifically Arabic, etc. Facts: out of spoken language of the copper tone, woolly-haired Moors, misnomer Native American Indians in the central Amexem, West Indies, America in the 1490s CE, Arabic, Chaldean, and Hebrew is referring by Christopher Cabal, all right, Cologne, Cristobal Colon, which is known as Christopher Columbus. In his diary, he speaks of Arabic, Chaldean, and Hebrew speaker interpreters coming to him at the shores when he reached Cuba, and the emperor or king came to him and they spoke Arabic, Chaldean, and Hebrew. That was here in the Western Hemisphere. This is in Africa and the Discovery of America by Leo Wiener. This is Harvard telling you this shit. Harvard. Okay? They told you that there was a king, emperor of Cuba, which, of course, Christopher Columbus called Isabella. That's what he renamed it to, but it was Cuba or Kaaba, because when he got there on top of the hill was a mosque. Another story. Here you have the Demotic script, 200 BC. This is housed in the British Museum. My wife and I seen this when we went to the British Museum, and this looked almost identical to Arabic, Kufic form, as a matter of fact, classical Arabic. It is very important to note that the Demotic script was introduced to the Temerian during the 25 dynastic period, which had Nubian or Kushite origin. Palanki was during the time of the 25th dynastic period. And Palanki was a Kushite. Even the Bible speaks of Palanki. Is also, he was a pharaoh, Kushite pharaoh. It was also worth mentioning that Demotic is the second script used by the famous Rosetta Stone, which had been used by linguists to decipher the older NETCHER, or Demotic is basis for the later scripts such as Arabic, which is quite clear if you're looking at the script. So we find that a sum of 565 names, 484 in America, 81 in Canada, of villages, towns, cities, mountains, lakes, rivers, and etc. And etymologically Arabic, designated by local long before the arrival of Columbus. Many of these names are in fact the same as names of Islamic places such as Mecca in Indiana, Medina in Idaho, Medina in New York, Medina and Hassan in North Dakota, Medina in Ohio, Medina in Tennessee, Medina in Texas, Medina and Alva in Ontario, Mahomet in Illinois, and Mona in Utah. And just for you noticeable names at the onset, closer analysis of the names of Native American tribes will immediately reveal their Arabic etymological ancestry. All right, Anasazi, Apache, Arawak, Arikana, Kavan, Cherokee, Creek, Hohokam, Hoopa, Hopi, Mecca, Mohican, Mohawk, Nazca, Zulu, Zuni are only a few. Islam in America is everywhere. One just have to look for it. From Khalifa Herona, California, that's the origin of California, to Alabumbia, which is Alabama, to Tallahassee, which is Tallahassee, to Medina, Ohio, to Moorestown, New Jersey, to Islam Oranda, Florida, to Alhambra, California. Muslims have left an impact on this country. Right, this is from the rupeenews.com. All right, so here we have the Holy Quran of the MSTA, all right? And it speaks of the lessons, all right? Let's look at these lessons. Moorish Holy Quran, Circle 7. And it says, the lessons of this pamphlet are not for sale, but for the sake of humanity, I am a prophet and a servant of his worthy of his hire. You can receive this pamphlet at expense. The reason these lessons have not yet been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when the time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed the secrets. And from the first time in ages, have these secrets been delivered in the hands of the Muslims of America. Okay. On to Reverend Sterling Means, by the title of his book, it seems Ethiopia is the missing link to African history. He states that the Kushite nation extended from Spain to Syria, and this system was penetrated through Phoenicia and African Berber, North African tribes from Morocco to Egypt, India, and the Middle Ages in Europe, right? A professor by the name of George Rawlinson states that the linguistic language discovery led to a show of a Kushite dynasty that did extend itself from Abyssinia to India. The whole peninsula of India was inhabited by Africans. Africans, through meaning to separate in Greeks, was one nation and the world was their land. All right, here we go to Sacred Drift, Essays on the Margins of Islam by Peter Lambert Wilson. He states, according to my informant, M.A. Hari, Noble Drew Ali was a Parthian knight, a Shriner, a prophet of the Veil realm, and of course, a 32nd degree Mason. All right, this is what it says by Ralph McNeil, Jr. of the Prince Hall Phalanxy Research Society, mentioned that he has a new book coming out documenting the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was a member of the Odd Fellows organization. Right. This is Fahim A. Knight L. All right, Brother Noble. And then you have Prophet Noble Drew Ali may have been a Freemason or Freemasonic member of the PHO, which is Prince Hall origin, not the PHA, which is Prince Hall affiliates. But more than likely, he was a Freemason under Dr. Solomon Muhammad, right? Solomon Muhammad, who had his own group, which called the Mecca Medina Temple of ancient, free, and operative Masons from 1st degree to 96 degrees, the true shrine. All right. So Shriners, Rosicrucians, Oddfellows, Knights of Pythias. The reason MSTA meetings was held at the Pantheon Hall is because Prophet Noble Ali was a Pantheon, and etc. And I stress was, it is said that it was stated by Brother O. Peyton Bey of Temple 4 and Temple 25 stated that Holy Prophet said, I took the cover off of all secret societies. The Prophet states that in the Moorish Holy Quran Circle 7, the reason that the lessons had not been known was because it was held back, as we said earlier. Now, if you go down to Freemasons and Islam, what do we share? By Fahim A. Knight, he states that Noble Abdul Sharif Ali, Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913, formalized the first Islamic organization in America in Newark, New Jersey. He himself was a 33 degrees Mason. All right, then we have Arthur H. Fawcett in his pamphlet, Moorish Science Temple of America, supports the contention that the Peter Wilson and Robert Ursel was who maintained that the Ali's Islamic movement was heavily influenced by the mystic shrine, and he indeed borrowed their philosophy, lingo, rituals, and the Masonic worldview. Fawcett states, notes the extension or extensive use of religious regalia, resemblance of the ancient Arabic Egyptian Arabic order of the mystic shrine of North and South America and its jurisdiction known as Black Shriners. The so-called Black Shriners consist of 32 and 33 degree Masons, were incorporated as an organization in 1893 in Chicago. Right now, we know that you can become a 3rd degree Mason, which is the Master Mason, and go up in it, right? So you have to have inter-apprentice, fellow craftsman, and then you go into Master Mason, all right? They use such title as Noble, Sharif, Sheikh, called their meeting place temples, claimed an ancient origin of Islamic countries, and wore fezzes on ceremonial occasions. The Moorish Science Temple utilized the symbols of the star and crescent, the all-seeing eye, and the 2 handshakes in the Masonic grip as their letterhead. And here it is. The eye and the unity signs are found in Masonic temples, while the salvation sign is found in Shrinerdom. These symbols are of the MSTA nationality cards and on the cover of the Moorish literature. In the Moorish Holy Quran Circle 7 is titled After the Feast, the Homeward Journey, the Missing Jesus, the search for him. His parents finds him in the temple and he goes with them to Nazareth, symbolic meaning of carpenter tools. It states, one day as he was bringing forth the tools from work, he said, these tools remind me of the ones we handled in the workshop of the mind, which things are made of thought. And when we build up character, we use the square to measure all of our lines and to straighten out the crooks and places of the wiry. We make the corners of our conduct square. We use the compass and draw the circle around our passions and desires and keep them in balance of righteousness. We use the axe to cut wiry, the knotty, useless, ungainly parts that makes characters symmetrical. We use the hammer to drive home the truth, pound it in until it becomes part of our every part. We use the plane to smooth the rough, uneven surface of joints and blocks and boards that goes to build the temples for the truth. The chisel line, the plumbing, and so all these uses in the workshop of the mind. And then this ladder was its Trinity steps, faith, hope, and love. And on its climb up to the dome of purity and life, and of the 3 steps or the 12 steps ladder, hence Jacob's ladder, right? 12 steps. We ascend until we reach the pinnacle in which life is spent to build the temple of the perfect man or the perfected man. It is self-evident in chapter 5 that the principles of masonry was laid out by Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the MSTA or MHTS. For those who have even studied masonry or endured any of the orders of masonry, the above teachings are Masonic or without a doubt or contradiction. They are the teachings. In the lecture, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Religious Controversy, he states that the remedy brought by Jesus, Muhammad, Confucius, and all the other prophets where remedy is truth. Which remedy is truth. In the speech, Savior of humanity, he states, coming as he does with a message from the nations, and sometimes the same man as he did Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, and other prophets of their day. Consequently, on each and every one of our nationality because it states we honor all the divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. This is Masonic tone. In Carl's Claudie book, Introduction to Freemasonry, he writes, in his private petition, a man must petition God or Jehovah, Allah, or Buddha, Muhammad, or Jesus. He may call upon the God of Israel or the God or the great first cause. In the Masonic Lodge, he hears petitions to the great architect of the universes, hence his Ptah. This tolerates all religions is further clarified. Masonry does not specify any god of any creed. She requires merely you believe in some deity. Give him what name you will, any god will do. Albert Pike, former supreme pontiff of the Universal Freemasonry, likewise exalts. Masonry is the religion around which the altar, the Christians, Hebrews, Muslims, the Brahmin, Hindu, and the followers of Confucius and Zoroaster can assemble as brothers and unite in prayer. Right, this is Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, page 226, 1906. You get the book African Origin of Freemasonry, Thesis of an Ancient Grand Lodge of Kemet. This is by Zachariah P. Gromelian, 90 degrees. He says, upon studying the teachings of Noble Drew Ali and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, among many, Mr. Gromelian discovered the original roots of Masonry order comes from ancient African civilization, or rather the people, dark-hued, melanated people, not particularly just the country. That's the problem in which that's being misconstrued. Kenneth Moore, 32 degrees, Moorish Circle 7, the rise of Islamic faith among blacks in America and its Masonic origin. Ali, a high degree Mason, incorporated various Masonic teachings from a auxiliary group known as the AEAONMS, which is the ancient Egyptian Arabic order of the nobles of the mystic shrine, a pseudo-Islamic Arabic Oriental organization that served as a wake-up call to lost knowledge, a knowledge that is taken away from Africans during the slave trade. Finally, it explores the Masonic symbolism of Ali's Moorish science doctrine or dogma, digging deeper into the esoteric state or side of his Aquarian Masonic teachings, explaining their origin and discovering of an age-old wisdom that has been kept hidden from the human eye. One would think that the Africans and the Americans would have rejected the religious traditions of their European oppressors, taking into consideration that the African religions are far older and they possess more sources of knowledge and spiritual salvation. So remember, this is the ancient mystic Oriental Masonry, Swinburne claimer, as I told you about earlier. He tells you, he put this in perspective. We are not indebted to either ancient Egypt for either religion or Masonry, but to America. In America, rediscovered in the 15th century and repopulated in the 17th century, we discovered Egypt and the Promised Land. Where they discovered Egypt at? Here in the Americas, or the land of constellation of the eagle. It is fact that at Memphis, Egypt, in the pyramids, under the guidance of the kings, the mystic rites of Masonry were worked many thousands of years ago. But at that time, Egypt and the continent of America were one and the same. America, known to mystic as Atlantis. When this ruin befell, was the seat of the greatest empire that has ever existed, and its irresistible armies was terrorizing all Europe and Asia. When following the course of constellations, their immovable and perpetually fastened upon America was reached, it would appear that while all of this is sublime in the historical past centers upon Egypt, all that is sublime in the prehistoric past centers upon America, Atlantis. All right, he's telling you. And at this curtain, which has hitherto concealed the prehistoric connection between the peoples of ancient Egypt and of America, is lifted, it will be seen that the people of the eagle on the now being descended from the original people of the eagle on this continent, the twine of one. In the prehistoric Americans where's that at? Yeah, in the prehistoric Americans was the original Egypt and Eagle Land, prior to the mighty disposition in the days of Peleg, when the earth was divided and the great globe itself was nearly rendered asunder, right? This is what he says now. Say Augustus, first born among continents, America has been forcibly dominated the new world. Hers was the first dry land lifting out of the waters. Hers was the first shores washed by the oceans that enveloped from the all the earth besides. And while Europe was represented only by islands rising here and there above the sea, America, Atlantis, being stretched from the unbroken line from Nova Scotia to the far west. And of this, there can be no doubt. The pyramids were built by the Atlanteans long ago, before Egypt was a civilized country. In other words, the Egyptians were the Atlanteans, were the Lemurians. Who are the Pygmies? As we showed earlier, we already explained all of this. So when they were built in Egypt instead of some other place of what is now America, because Egypt was then the center of the earth, and the Atlanteans, with their vast knowledge, sought the center, for that will stand as long as time. All right, we go to Grand Sheikh Messiah Azid El of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World, 2F. It has been often misconstrued by our Asiatic brothers and sisters that the Moorish science is a Masonic lodge of the European accepted order of Freemasonry. I must specify the term accepted, because the European order, which has the title accepted, will not tell you who it is that they are accepted by. The body of information and degrees in which they go through is science that was given to them by the Moors, the ancient Moors. The ancient Moors are the ones who accepted them. Remember, this was told to you in Stolen Legacy by George D. James. It is not the Moorish science temple that gave this system of degrees to the Europeans, as we have organized as a civic organization in 1913, 1916, 1928. The European order of Freemasonry goes back to at least the First Crusade, 1099 AD. Of course, Freemasonry or Freemasonic lore attempts to tie itself back to the Nagu or Pharaoh, the Moses of ancient Egypt. Keep in mind that during the time of the Crusades, the Moors ruled Spain as well as other parts of Europe. We ruled Spain from 1711 to 1492. Consequently, when the Europeans, during their occupancy in Islam at the Crusades, learned the arts of the Moors. As a matter of fact, the person that they learned it from was Salahuddin, who was a Sufi mystic, a Moor. The arts of the Moors, which they learned from us, is known today as advanced science or Freemasonry or Moorish science. Sematawi, the everlasting gospel, that old time religion. In the Shriner's recognition test, it is formatted in a question and answering sequence. It reads, just like the 101s and 102s of the Moorish Science Temple of America, of the Moorish questionnaire for Moorish children or Moorish Americans. Freemasonry, Ancient Egypt and the Islamic Destiny by Mustafa El-Amin, who took the place of over the Bilalians, which was the group in which that formed by Wafdi Muhammad. Mustafa El-Amin is now the head. Are you a noble of the mystic shrine? Answer, I am so accepted by all men of noble birth. Question, have you traveled to any? Answer, I have. Question, from where to what place have you traveled? Answer, traveled east over the hot burning sands of the desert. Question, where were you stopped at? Answer, at the Devil's Pass. Question, what were you requested to do? Answer, I was requested to give a few drops of urine. Question, what were you requested to do that? Answer, as a token of my renunciation the wiles and evils of this world, and by granting permission to worship at the shrine. Question, at what shrine do you worship? Answer, at the shrine of Islam. Question, do you ride? Answer, yes, I ride the camel until I was caused to dismount. Question, then what do you do with your camel? Answer, I tied him. Answer, where did you tie him? Question, where did you tie him? Answer, I tied him to the date tree where all true and good shriners so do. All right. Timothy Drew, Thomas Drew, as he's also known as, then known as Noble Drew Ali or Professor Drew. Drew Ali borrowed the title Noble from the Masonic ritual. The Origin of Nation Islam, the Farrakhan Controversy, Part 4 by Sergeant Sam Smith. So the prophet Noble Drew Ali is reported to have told a brother that came to the temple with a Shriner fez, brother, you do not need that now that I, the prophet, am here. Then Noble Drew Ali took the fez off and gave him a plain red fez. But note the similarities between the adept chamber emblem and the Shriner's insignia. Noble Drew Ali is often shown in Master Masonic stance. Look at his feet. That is Master Mason stance. The first 3 steps in Freemasonry. You have enter apprentice, fellow craftsman, Master Mason. We see him in the classical Masonic stance with this hand outside of his chest as opposed to inside, as he's one that came to reveal the secrets. In order to reveal the secrets, he had to first know what they were. Here's the step chart of the Masonic stance. Duncan rituals, Masonic rituals, and monitor. Right here, you find that the Royal Arch or 7th degree, sign of the Grand Master of the Second Veil or Junior Overseer. That's what is meant by the fidelity sign. The Europeans put his hands inside his chest. We put ours on the outside, symbolized as the fidelity sign. Notice the prophet giving the grand hail and salam at the mystic shrine or at the temple. The sign is given by facing the Orient, leaning forward as is making of the lower bow, arms raised and the hands extended palms, head towards the forward in a reverential and beseeching manner, body bent more than shown and cut, right? Is the prophet doing it? You get the Egypt or Egyptian sacred science is by Wesley Muhammad, all right? While the latter claims is to a certain extent true, it must be severely qualified that Amun is just another name for Atum, which is just another name for Ptah. As Albert Churchward confirmed, Amen was another name for Atum. In the hymn, Atum Ray, he is adorned as one and the same as Atum, which shows the Amun is later named for Atum. So you have Imani, Iman, Amen, all of that is the same. And he represented as the hidden god of Amenta, or the secret earth. All right. Atum was always depicted as an anthropomorphic deity, i.e., a god with a human anthropomorph form, morphe. Yet Atum in his skies as Amun was worshipped as the eternal god. Amun is the one god that is always depicted in human form, Amen. While the other deities in Egypt was expressly worshipped by the title of Anku. All right, Anku. All right, this would be say to Anku. All right, but Anku means the everlasting one eternal God. All right. Atum, creator god of Kemet. Atum is thus the every living one god of ancient Egypt. Allahu Samad. Allahu Samad. Allahu Samad. Allah is the eternal. So Allah is the eternal is Atum, the eternal. Anku. Atum Ra declares that he is the one God and the one just and righteous God and the one living God. He is unicus, the sole and the only one, besides whom there is none other. In other words, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Allah is alone and has no partners. At the same time, we would not forget that all of the different names of gods in Egypt was simply the attribute of one God. In the 17th chapter of the Egyptian ritual, it says that his name together composes the cycle of the gods. In 17th chapter of the Book of the Dead, misnomer Book of the Dead is coming forth by day and night, open up the mouth ceremony of the evolution of Ra and the destruction of Apap. I am the great God, self-created. That is to say, who made his names, the company of the gods of God. So the science of Atum, from the book, The Hidden Meaning of the Word Egypt. Atum represents unconsciousness to consciousness, from a state of sleep to awakening, to the realization of existence. Atum is the first member of the Supreme Nine or Grand Enad. Atum is the original Kemetic concept of the biblical Adam Kadmon, the heavenly one, the heavenly man. Alif, Dalif, Ming. Atum, Mu Ta, Ta Mu, Nefu, Set Hu. Ta is earth, Mu is water, Nefu air, Set is fire, the four elements, plus Hu, the authoritative utterance, which is Hu is all right? The sound that heals, the universal sound that heals, the root chakra, right? So Adam is from Ta, earth, and Mu, water. Hence, Tamu, Atum, Muat, all right? So Adam is the first NETCHER depicted in full human form. This is by Fahim Judah L, good brother. This is true in relations to the Quran or in its relation to the Hebrew Bible. Regarding the latter, Dr. Charles Finch points out that the root of Atum is Tim, or Tum, all right, hence Thomas, which has several meanings among the people and completion. Adam represents the completion of God's work on the sixth day. Hence, the atom is this sixth atom in the periodical chart is carbon, carbon atom, Adam Kadmon, perfect man, all right? And you're supposed to become the perfected man from 666, transforming that carbon melanin into 616, carbon 7, from carbon 12 to carbon 7 to become the complete man, a perfected man. Atum is no less the complete or perfect divine man. A cognate root of team is deem, as in demon. And thus, name means Adam was the namer of all animals. Thus, the most elementary and indisputable etymological analysis demonstrates that all the attributes of the Egyptian Atum was embraced in the Hebrew Adam. Adam gave the angels the names in heaven, remember? He also named the animals on earth. So Adam Kadmon, the heavenly man, named all the angels. Adam, as earthly man, Geb, named all the animals. And there also is the same lexical and mythological connections with the Quran Adam, with the equally points out by Bilal and Goodwin. Adam was the first to be taught the names of all things. The word name, team, means to complete, to make as an end of. He was known as the sun god principle that was brought day to an end, i.e. as the evening or night sun, right? The Arabic word with the same letters is tima, which means to become complete, finish, done, to come to an end, to be or become terminated. But the parallel between Egyptian Atum and the biblical Quranic Adam goes much deeper than this, and the implications for understanding the Quran are profound. To truly appreciate this fact, we must understand just who Atum is. Atum, the one eternal God. Kul huwa Allahu ahad. He Allah. Atum is one. Atum is Ra, and Ra, it is said to have entered back into the primordial waters, which is now personified as the cow goddess Nut Hathor, or Hethor, or Hetheru, or known as Hagar, Menheter Ret. He assumed from them a black body. He is now the black anthropomorphic god, Atum again, the black body. Atum of the triad of Ra himself, incarnated in a black body. Right now, we know that Osiris also is called the Lord of the Perfect Black. All right, and Ra himself incarnated in the black body made from the primordial waters. When Ra enters the dark aquatic Duat, the Twa, all right, the Twat, all right, or underworld, the vagina. When you go back into the womb to be incarnated again, he is actually assuming the dark form of Atum, which is therefore called Afu Ra, the flesh of Ra. So being so-called black, the black body is the flesh of Ra. In later myth, this black aquatic body of Afu Ra or Atum Ra is personified in the black deity Osiris or Osar, whose black body itself is represented by the black bull Apis, the personification of the primordial waters. The myths of Ra joining Osiris or Osar in the Duat or underworld is an actual picturesque way of presenting Ra incarnation in the black body, personified in Osiris, ruler of the Duat. The Duat represents the primordial waters and is explicitly identified with the black body of Osiris. Right? Mustafa Dadala is correct. Ra is the living NETCHER who descended into death to become Osar, the NETCHER of the dead. But Osar, Osiris, is only the black body assumed by Ra in the Duat by Professor John Coleman Darnell and Colleen Manasseh informs us. The differences in the retelling. We were brought, this is you find in the Holy Quran, El-Hajj 15, Surah 26, 34 verse. Surely we create man of dry, ringing clay, selves, of black mud, hammer, black mud, ham, warped in shape, manus. Now think about it. If hammer is in Arabic means black mud, and when people say that they're not hamitic, but they're just Semitic, then they are sadly mistaken, because black mud, which is the carbon, which is melanin, is hammer, not hammer. Right? Don't hurt them, hammer. Don't hurt them, hammer. But the jinn we create previously of flaming fire. And when your Lord said to the angel, see, I'm creating a man of dry ringing clay, of black mud wrung into shape. When I had shaped him and breathed my spirit into him, see, God breathed, Allah breathed into us. You see, we have Allah's breath. Then fall down in prostration before him. This is what he was telling Iblis. Right? Fakwa Allahu Sajindin. The divine breaths, spirit blown into Adam's nostrils is the Egyptian Ba, incarnating within the Ka statue, Adam, as Wade Noble explains in his African psychology. The Ba was the second or 7 divisions of the psyche nature. It represents the transmission of the breath of life. The ancient believed that there was only one power, which was symbolically represented as the breath, and that the power or the breath was transmitted by the ancestors to the descendants. And the ancestors, the ancients, believed that the power and the energy have always existed and will always exist. The Ba was the invisible source, like electricity, of all visible function. The Ba was in effect the vital principle which represented the source or essence of all things, hence the soul. Ba, ka, kat. Right? The kat is the physical body, the Ba is the soul, the ka is the spirit. Right? This is the same thing that we see here of Kanun, the ram-headed NETCHER, which is crafted the Ka, spirit, Eve, and the Ba, soul, Adam, on his potter's wheel before a person's birth. Well, we find the same thing in Jeremiah 18, 22 through 6. Arise and go down to the potter's house. This is where you find E.D. Jakes' potter's house. He took it from this verse here, and there I will let you hear my words. So I will went down to the potter's house, and there he was working at his will. And his vessel he made making of clay with spoils in the potter's hands, and he reworked it in another vessel, and it seemed good to the potters to do. Then the word of God came to me, O house of Israel, can I not do with you as this potter's has done? Declared the Lord, behold, like the clay in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel. Same thing right here, as you see Adam and Eve on the potter's wheel, which is nothing more than your Ra, your Ba, and your Ka. Hence the Kaaba, right? The same Kaaba, right? The Quran speaks about the Baka, which is the older name of Mecca, being the first house of worship. We're talking about your house, which is your physical body, appointed for humanity. It is also addressed the place of Umel, all right? Khadirah, the mother of the settlements. The most important shrine established for the people is one in Becca, a blessed beacon for all people, is a clear sign that the people of station of Abraham, anyone who enters it shall be granted safe passage. The people owe it to God that they shall observe Hajj to this shrine when they can afford it. As for those who disbelieve, God does not need anyone. Surah 3, Ayat 96, 97. All right. So we know that all this talk about this shrine and temple, so forth and so on, is nothing more than 1 Corinthians 3:16. Do you not know that you're the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? 1 Corinthians, or do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God? You're not your own, for you was bought at a price, therefore glorify God in your body. 2 Corinthians 13:5. Do you not know yourself that Jesus Christ is in you? Our focus here would be on the last point. Islam made sacred house of God, Bayat Allah, also its central religious symbol, the black stone or Al-Hajar Al-Aswan, which is housed therein, is both called the Kaaba. In order to fully understand and appreciate the verbal assonance between Kemetic ontology or ontological nature and Islamic religious terminology and sacred architect, and thus appreciate Diop's insights, we must have a clear understanding of the relevant Kemetic concept. The ancient Egyptian ontology. Kemetic ontology recognized different aspects of modes, upward of 9, of divine and human beingness, usually in terms of such as the Ka, the Ab, the Ren, the Ka, the Ba, the Shu, the Aku, or the Saul. However, regarding the gods and emphasis is clearly on but 3 of these. Your Ba is in the sky, your body Kat is in the neither world, and your statue Ka is in the temple. No coincidence that they run around the Kaaba 7 times, and then on the last rotation, kiss the black stone, symbolic to the Kundalini coming up through the 7 chakras or wheels of light. And then at the last, they kiss the black stone, which the pineal gland, which embedded inside of is the soul principle, the Ba, in order to awaken it. The Vesica Pisces is the shape that is in the intersection of the 2 circles with the same radius, intersecting in such a way that the center of each circle lies at the perimeter of the other. The name literally means the bladder of a fish in Latin. So here they are kissing the vagina, the black stone in the vagina, hence the G spot, which sits about 1 inch to 3 inches inside of the vaginal canal. And the black body being formed in the Vesica Pisces, in the womb, in the uterus. This is what this is symbolic to. And then the Muslims kiss and touch this black stone, touch the new life, the reborn, the rebirth. The Shiva Lingam is the most powerful form, comes in 2 parts. You have the Yongi Linga, vagina, and the black Shiva Linga, phallus. The union of these 2 represents creation. Shiva Linga are made of black stone. The Hajar Aswan, the Aswan black stone, is contained in the silver vagina in Kaaba. The Muslims circulate and kiss to remove sins, for they want to be reborn, born again, just like the Christians, no difference. But they take it into symbolism. The name originates from Abraham's mistress, Hajar, or Hagar, which was an African slave. No, it was no African slave, but they made it a bondwoman, but she was Egyptian, according to the Bible, given to him to bear children. The same thing we find with Freemasonry. They kiss the, or represents, or have appreciation for the compass and square, which is the G is in the middle, which symbolizes that stone, that black stone, the God, geometry. The vagina itself is based on 1.618. The golden mean ratio, 0.19. Remember the 19 angels sits over it? All right. Here we have it again. All right. The prayer hands, the vagina to the lips, so God can hear your prayer. We have it in the brain, the thalamus, the innermost chamber. The innermost veil of brain tissue is called the Ptah mater. Latin means tender mother, the holy of holies. All right, here we have the compass drawn feminine curves in arcs. The square draws phallic straight lines, angles. They can also be found in the fornax, vaulted chamber of the brain, which means fornax means fornication. This is in the brain. You also have fornax on vagina. As above, so below. As within, so without. First and second ventricle, the butterfly effect, the third ventricle, the third eye, the kings and queens chamber, holy of holies. This chamber is known as the fornax, which is the vault, the archway in the anatomy from which that we get fornication. Fornax comes from furnace, which means furnace. Means to burn, Hollywood, burn. Old school, you don't know nothing about that. The sacred temple of the ancients were construed to reflect the human body. Egyptologist R.A. Soswala de Lubix, in his famous The Temple in Man, say of the great house of God called the Temple of Luxor from the Pharaonic Egypt. The outline of the human skeleton traced according to the anthropometrical measures, very carefully constructed, bone by bone, was superimposed on the general plan of the temple. The head is located exactly at the sanctuary of the covered temple. The sanctuary of the bark of the Amun is the oral cavity. The chest is located in the first hypostyles of the covered temple and ends with the temple's platform. The abdomen is represented by the peristyle court, and the pubis is located exactly at the door separating the peristyle from the colonnade of Amun. This marvelous colonnade is in fact dedicated to the femur, the thigh, the knees at the site of the gate in front of which sits the two colossi mark the entrance of the colonnade. One might be tempted to think that the skeleton have been constructed to be superimposed on the temple, but any skeleton can be projected thus on the plan of the temple and will coincide with it. Moreover, all the proportions of the skeleton may be checked against the actual measurements of the temple. Here it is. This is the temple of Heru. Therefore, the physical body is the holy temple of God. The Holy Bible, New Testament, 1 Corinthians 3:16. Do you not know that your body is the temple? Or do you not know that you are the temple of God and the Spirit of God dwells in you? And if any man defiles the temple, him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. Do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, whom you have from God, and you're not your own? You was bought at a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. This is what this comes from. This is talking about the Mosaic template, architect patterns temple, the tabernacle pattern. You had the outer gate. You had the holy place. You have the holy of holies, or the most holy place. This is the same as we find within the Egyptian Kemetic Temerian temple. The floor plan of Ipis Azu is talking about the outer pylon on the colonnade of Taharka. All right, even Taharka is mentioned in the Bible. All right, Palanki, Taharka, all of that is mentioned in the Bible. The inner pylon, the great hall, all right, Tehegwin of Hatshepsut and Amenhotep III, the Holy of Holies. Same thing. And here we have that the physical body is based on what we refer to, as I told you yesterday in class, you have 206 bones in the human body, and after puberty, several bones fuse, become an adult. And according to the book of Enoch, the first 10 angels appeared with Tanesh, and there was 200 fallen angels that later followed Azazel, Satan. This making 210 fallen angels, or angles of light, which form our physical structure, called our skeleton system, approximately 210 bones after fusion of 206 to be right and exact. In fact, according to the Jewish lore, the 200 fallen angels was first on the planet Saturn, Satan. According to astrology, Saturn is the black planet, and it is the direct influence with with the formation of our skeleton system, our blood supply, and our DNA manufacturing. All right, so here's the names of the 200 fallen angels. This is coming from Dr. York's book, Rebuttal to the Slanderers. And here to the left is the 206 to 210 bones, which we have in the body that correlates to these 200 to 210 fallen angels. Talking about the angles of your bone structure. Hence, the body is the temple of man. You have the angles of demons, hence known as the fallen angels, and you have the lights of the 7 archangels, known as the 7 wheels of lights. All right, so you are a byproduct of everything that is externally told to you. You are that in miniature form. You are the microcosm of the macrocosm. Here we have Allah, arm, leg, arm, head, or arm, leg, supreme head. Arm, leg, arm, supreme head, or Allahi, which means man. Alihu, or Allahu, is one man. Together, they are Allahumma, which is the Elohim, or Alpha and Omega, beginning and the ending. Or Alon, which means is Alim, which means universe, and or all-knowing. Here we have the Yahweh, the name of Yahweh once again. As we told you, that's Ptah, and that is nothing more than your physical body. You are the fallen angels or angels of light, as I just proved to you. You are our dollar broth. Yeah. We're going to end all this confusion because y'all keep thinking that it's just something outside of yourself, some old spooky shit. No, I'm showing you that it's you already. You have to get your damn self straight. You have to master higher self over lower self. Revelations 5, and I saw the right hand of him that sat on the throne, a book written within. If there's a book written within, that must be your DNA. And on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. Oh, that must be your chakras. So from the base chakra, which is your sacrum, the holy bone that's known as sacrum, originated from the Latin sacrum, translated into Greek, herion or osteon, meaning sacred or strong bone. So it does come from the word sacred. In Indian spiritual practice, the area around the sacrum is said to be seen as the seat of the Kundalini. The word Kundalini comes from the Sanskrit word kundal, which means call up, or kunta, which also means kunta egg. It is seen as the primordial dominant energy represented in the 3.5 times cord at the base of the spine in the triangular bone called the sacrum, often visualized as the coral snake. According to the text, Kundalini is associated with the divine mother, Shakti, and the earth. One of the primary goals of traditional yoga practice is the uncalled release of this feminine energy, which is Auset. All right, Auset travels through the 7 caves and she finds the missing phallus, or has Tahuti to form this missing phallus, which is the pineal gland. The pineal gland looks just identical to like the head of the penis. Of the pineal gland of the penis, the head of the penis is called the pineal gland in your head. Just like if you do something negative, they put your ass in the penal system. Lock your ass out up behind calcified white walls in prison. You as a soul being, a kat, the soul is now incarcerated just like they are with the pineal gland, with the soul being inside the pineal gland, and they're having calcified pineal glands. This is the same shit that they're doing to you. All right. Here's the example of the spinal cord down into what we now refer to as the sacrum. And look, if you turn it sideways, that sacrum bone in the coccus, as it looks just like the symbol of justice. It's called the scimitar. It looks identical to the scimitar, which means justice. Jesus is said to be justice in the Moorish Science Temple of America, within the nation of gods and earth, and within the nation of Islam. Jesus is justice. Jesus means justice. This is what this is talking about, that justice starts first here within the sacral bone area. That's justice. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Here you have the 33 degrees between all these 33 degrees in the Scottish rites, the sovereign grand inspector general. Then above the inter apprentice, fellow craftsman, and master mason degree, you have the marked mason, the past master, the most excellent master, the royal arch mason, the order of Red Cross, the order of Knights of Malta, and the order of Knights Templar. On the York side, and what? There's 7 of them. So the York's right side symbolizes the 7 chakras, and the Scottish right side, which is 33, symbolizes the 33 vertebrae and the 31 plus 2 nerves. Right? So here we have that the spinal cord represents the Djid, which is the Djid pillar, which we get the term Jedi from. And it's a symbol of the backbone of all Saw, symbolizes as firmness, stability, and strength. Did God take a rib from Adam and made Eve? No, the sperm comes from a man, and the sperm is shaped like a backbone. The rib are connected to the backbone, so the backbone is the main rib. Adam is the bones, Eve is the flesh, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, symbolically, all right? And from the nerves, functions of the nerve functions that we get into all of the main organs, the eyes, tear glands, sinus membranes, mouth glands, mucous membranes of the mouth, the parotid glands, the heart, lungs, stomach, blood vessels of the abdominal region, liver, ducts, gallbladder, pancreas, all right, adrenal glands, small and large intestines, kidneys, bladder, sexual organs, all come from these particular extensions of the spinal nerve functions. All right. Hence, through these various endocrine glands, we get the pineal gland, pituitary gland, thyroid, parathyroid gland, the adrenal, which is on the cerebral adrenal glands, the pancreatic gland. All right. You also get the spleen, and you get the ovaries, the testes, the prostate, and the uterus. These are the gonads. These are the 7 major, all right, energy centers known as your chakras or shankaras or aritus, all right? And that area what we refer to is where the Umbellini or Kundalini resides at, within, all right, the Umbellini. Hit the book Son of Gods, Krishna, Buddha, and Christ Unveiled, right, by Heart Acharya. She says, resurrection. After the resurrection, Jesus revealed himself to the 7 in the boat, as related in John's gospel. These 7 fishes were part of the Egyptian mythos, represented the plank in the boat for saving souls, and the 7 fishes of men in the rituals of the dead. The 7 are spirits or gods in the Egyptian gospel. The 7, the sun gods returning on the white horse is another motif from in several myths, including that of Krishna, Apollo, and the Slavic and Slavic Dasbog, who daily was born, died, and resurrected. Right? Remember the white horse. I told you about the white horse. Right? Remember that's Pegasus. All right. And coming back on Pegasus. All right. So we're gonna go on and stop right there. And continuing now for days, weeks, months, and years to come, we're moving towards our most cherished goals of health, wealth, knowledge of ourselves, protection, security, full contentment, better economic condition, much more happiness, and more joy, much more frequently. Every action, enterprise, and endeavor in which that we wish to be involved is bringing increasing rewards. All right, we have so much abundance and success, and that we are able to help and share, give, and help those who are sincere along the way. We're moving closer towards the oneness of God and guidance and the full release of our higher inner selves. All right, we want to give shout out to those who gave super chats tonight. To Angus L, that brother right there, keep it moving. So do Johnny Boy's son. Appreciate y'all. Yael, Allah, Amin Ra, yo, you definitely keep it going. Appreciate that. Love y'all. And Salvador, appreciate that. These are the super chats for the night. We love y'all. And if y'all can continue giving, please go to Patreon, our Patreon page, which is listed. Also, you can go to Instagram, find me there. You can find me on all the social medias, Black Planet, MySpace, Facebook, you know what I'm saying? Twitter, you know what I'm saying? All of them. You know what I'm saying? We've been there for years. All right. Some of y'all just getting to know me, but I've been doing this for almost 30 years. All right. So we love y'all, and yo, we out. Do we got any questions? Anything before I go? Huh? Oh yeah, the conference, September the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. We need to see y'all. We appreciate the super chats, but we also need to see y'all in the place to be. September the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Mark your calendars, go on and get your days off. You need to be here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All right. By 5 o'clock Friday, we will be starting our event. 2 o'clock, please start arriving. That's our meet and greet. So anytime during Friday, you can come, meet and greet. All right. Normally we start around, I won't say around 5, but normally get started at least by 7. All right. But anyway, then that's the meet and greet is from that Friday. Right. But we also go over the itinerary and also go over some topics of discussion, as well as also practices. That Friday. Saturday is our heavy day from 10 in the morning to 10 at night. We damn got it going. We give some breaks. You get food, you get drinks, get everything. All right. Even for those that get in early, you know what I'm saying? You might want to get your hotels, your motels, Holiday Inns, you know what I'm saying? Whatever the case is, you know what I mean? So Sunday, we do from 10 to 5. Everybody break after 5, head back out to their homes peacefully for they can get home enough time for they can go to work if they need to that morning on Monday morning. All right. So we give them enough time to, you know, to get on up out of here. But that is the itinerary. If you need further information, give us a call at 910-364-9099 or go to our website, dralimel-bey.com, and go to our page, which is who? And the link is in the chat. My wife just said you can go to calendar of events and look at the itinerary and the hotel, the motels, and Holiday Inns. All right. All right. We love y'all, and we out. Peace.